get regular updates. Finally, we have Minister Mike Ellis is in regular touch with his counterpart in Ottawa, Bill Blair, who is on standby, willing and able to offer anything that we need. They're being quite forthright and generous with that. I am hoping to be able to schedule a call with the Prime Minister in the next day or so, and I'm building a list of things that we'll be able to ask for. I'll take them seriously when they say that they're prepared to give help, and we certainly want to accept that help. In addition, we are grateful to the Mayor of Edmonton and the Edmonton administration for providing on very short notice one of the evacuation centers at the Expo Center. So I think what you're seeing right now is that everybody wants to be focused on this. This is pretty unprecedented. The number of fires, as you noted from the update, has gone up dramatically from what we talked about this morning. And I don't know that I've ever seen 24,500 people across over 20 communities be evacuated at one time. So I think we're treating this with the full gravity and attention that it deserves, and I'm grateful for all of the levels of government working together on this.
Could I
yes.
add, Premier? Yeah, so our Provincial Operations Centre is in direct contact with the Federal Operation Centre as well. They are absolutely liaising back and forth, and as the Minister stated, I am in direct contact with Minister Bill Blair. Spoke to him actually a very short time ago. And right now we're listening to those incident commanders that are on the ground. We're listening to the experts, and as they require additional resources, we are responding. As stated in our earlier press conference, I think that's why we have some more firefighters that are going to be starting tomorrow as requested, and we're providing that to them. And I think we have some more coming next week as well. And I think it's important to know that we do have an intergovernmental relationship between all of the provinces, and regardless if it's British Columbia, Saskatchewan, all the way down east, regardless if there is a critical incident, whether it be fire or flood or whatever the case may be, there is already this relationship between all levels of government and all the provinces to make sure that we're sharing resources in the true spirit of cooperation. Thank you.
All right, we do have one question from the floor, so we're going to go back in person, then we'll go back to the phone lines. Could you just state your name and outlet, please?
I'm Darren from CTV News. I'm wondering whether it was appropriate to make a campaign appearance with a candidate today as the wildfire situation escalated.
Look, the wildfire situation is my #1 priority. I had some commitments that I kept today, but I'm heading to Edmonton tonight, and I'll be spending all day tomorrow assessing the situation on the ground. And as if I need more time associated with that, I certainly will. But things escalated pretty quickly today.
All right, we're going to go back to the phones. Operator, could you please put through the next caller?
The next question is from Danielle Smith, Globe and Mail. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. Perhaps this one is for the Premier. You've said that the federal government is on standby to provide support, so I'm just wondering at what point will you accept that support from Ottawa? And can you explain why it hasn't been accepted or maybe necessary yet?
Well, as Mike mentioned, we have the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Commission. That is a multi-level entity that includes the federal government, all of the provinces, in sharing and collaborating on resources. So we are working through that agency because there are obviously, when you look at the prairies, there are going to be other hot spots, and so we have to rely on the national agency to make sure that they're allocating resources in a way that covers all of the most severe need. As you heard from Christy, we're also going to be accepting support from agencies in the United States, and I'll be asking the Prime Minister when I speak with him if there are any additional resources that can be freed up. We know that we have forest fire fighting expertise within our national parks. I know that they have to be on hand because they have to make sure that our parks are protected as well. That'll be one of my asks. I'll also ask if there is any particular expertise within the military to be able to send crews that can fight fires and do major reconstruction. That'll be the other major ask that I have. So the sense that I got from our Alberta Emergency Management Agency was that working through the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Commission has been sufficient, but I want to make sure that I understand what resources are available at the federal level. The federal government will also need to be called upon to assist First Nations communities. Many of the communities that are evacuated are First Nations. There's if you've got structural damage and building damage, there's going to be issues associated with making sure that those homes get rebuilt. So I'll be raising that with him as well, just to make sure that there aren't any gaps. And I'm collecting information. We had another meeting with our emergency management cabinet committee just prior to coming here today, and I've asked all my ministers on that committee if they would also just forward me requests that I should be making of the federal government. So it's all underway, but if I need to escalate it, I'll have an opportunity to do that when I speak to the Prime Minister.
Do you have a follow-up, Elena?
I do, thank you. I don't know who this is for, but I'm just wondering if someone there might be able to provide an update on any known property damage, such as to homes or farms, and if any injuries have been reported.
Stephen, did you want to take that one?
I can take a stab at it, Premier. Now that I know it seems to be a constant question coming back. So the damage assessment is problematic for a number of reasons, but my colleague Christy mentioned that overflight of areas is doable, but visibility in some instances is next to nil. As an example, we've had overflights over Fox Lake yesterday, and it is impossible to actually have a detailed assessment of what the extent of the damages were, understanding what I reported yesterday about the 20 homes, the RCMP station, the general store, and maybe the water treatment plant. In the rest of the province, we were 10 homes unfortunately lost. That number could be growing, but because the people are not going back necessarily due to the evacuation orders, and the properties are not accessible, and our focus is clearly on keeping the people that have evacuated supported with the services they need and enabling those evacuation orders. We haven't done, admittedly, a great job at populating that data point, but I notice your interest. So I will launch the team on the best as we can do to provide you that data point. It is extremely important, and we're striking that balance there between keeping people alive and then providing you the necessary data that you need to do your work. So I'll commit to that.
All right, operator, could you please put through the next caller?
The next caller is Don Braid, Calgary Herald. Please go ahead.
Hello, Premier. Thank you for taking my call in obviously very difficult circumstances. And this is just quasi-election related. The opposition leader, Rachel Notley, has said that she's pausing 7 of her own campaigns in the area. And I wonder if the UCP is going to be doing the same. But perhaps more importantly, she also offered to join the Cabinet Committee to make her own experience available, which was obviously very considerable after the Provincial fire in 2016. Could you respond to those 2 points?
Sure. I will be seeing the leader of the official opposition in the coming days, and I'll look forward to getting her advice on how she would like to be able to feed into our process. The Cabinet Committee is going to be meeting with members of Cabinet, but we have arranged for separate briefings for her and her team so that she is receiving the same information that we are. And I welcome any feedback that she would give as we go through to make sure that information gaps don't develop and that we're able to address the needs as they emerge. So I thank her for the offer of that. As for our campaigns, I can tell you that the candidates and former MLAs that I have spoken with are in those communities are doing work in the communities. They're showing up at the evacuation centers. They're reaching out to mayors and reeves. They're doing important work in helping to, again, identify needs that can then be elevated to me and to our emergency management cabinet committee. And so I want them to continue doing that work. There are two of our candidates who have officially taken a step back from the campaign, and that's Todd Lowen in Central Peace, Notley, and Andrew Bochenko in Drayton Valley, Devon.
And do you have a follow-up, Don?
Yes. Is there any special circumstance with Mr. Lowen and the other candidate that require them to do that, or why would that be a little different from the others?
Well, with Andrew Bochenko, Drayton Valley, of course, is one of the two large communities that have been evacuated, 7,200 people. And so I think he made a personal judgment that it would be best for him to be spending time trying to meet people at the evacuation center, as well as trying to connect with local officials to be able to provide advice. And Minister Lowen is, as you can imagine, with Forestry, Parks and Tourism, his ministry leads the firefighting effort at this time, so he's going to be very heavily engaged. In addition, he's from an area that has a lot of fire activity. He was telling me today about a personal property that he owns where you've got 3 fires that are converging at once. And when those fires hit together, it ends up accelerating them. So he's got a number of reasons why he needs to take a step back from the campaign, and I support him in doing that. He's fully embedded in our emergency management cabinet committee and providing really important feedback and guidance, as well as oversight and also playing that crucial role of connecting resources and connecting information.
Thank you. Operator, could you please put through the next caller?
The next question is from Arthur Green, Western Standard. Please go ahead.
Good day, Premier. Thank you for taking my question. When the fires began, it appeared that they were near a lot of oil towns. Are these fires being deliberately set?
I don't think we can know. What we do know from what I had heard earlier, and I'll get Christy to comment on this as well, is that the typical way that a natural fire occurs is through lightning storms. And so the presumption is that the vast majority of these fires are human caused. That can mean any number of things. It can mean off-highway vehicles. It can mean campfires. It can mean a cigarette out the window. It can mean carelessness. It can mean sparks. So there's all kinds of ways in which these fires can start. Christy, did you have anything to add to that?
That's correct, Premier. Majority of wildfires in Alberta, unfortunately, are caused by human activity. That doesn't mean they are all deliberately set. They are the majority of them inadvertently caused by recreational activity or burning that goes out of control. So you're quite right in saying that there's not necessarily a direct connection between a fire being human caused and it being deliberately set.
And do you have a follow-up, Arthur?
I do. I just left the evacuation center here in Edmonton, and spirits are quite high. You know, dogs are being looked after, people are being fed, people are smiling, actually. If Premier Smith could have one message to these people at the evacuation centers, what would that message be?
Well, we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that they have the resources that they need. And we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that these fires get fought so they can return home. We're working very hard on protecting communities because we know that as the communities are protected, it just makes it so much easier when the evacuation is over for them to return home and get life back to normal. And those are the things that we are 100% focused on right now.
Operator, could you please put through the next caller?
The next question is from Karina Schultz, CBC Edmonton. Please go ahead.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm just curious to hear about which communities right now are facing the greatest threat of fire and are perhaps, being watched as hotspots or, could take a turn for the worst.
Christy, did you want to take that one?
I certainly wouldn't want to speculate on what a fire is going to do. If there's one thing in the time that I've learned here, it is that wildfire can be very unpredictable. We have been working with a strong wind going in a certain direction today, but that wind could change direction in the next few days and change how exactly the fires are fought. I'd like to correct my earlier number off of the top. There are currently 110 wildfires burning in Alberta. Excuse me. That wouldn't have happened if I had the status dashboard in front of me, which I didn't. But of those, 110 fires, certainly they are not all out of control, but they are all fires that our agency is keeping an eye on. We have highly technical experts who are looking at fire behavior, who are able to read those weather forecasts and tell us which areas are going to be hot spots. Certainly, we have seen a lot of activity, particularly in that north central area, unfortunately, and there are a lot of communities there. And so, obviously, number one priority is going to be wildfires that are threatening communities. And that's where we're going to focus our resources.
Thanks for that, Christy. I'd written down 392, so I'm glad that it's only 110. Can you just also tell us how many hectares then, just so that we have the accurate information? 110 fires burning, and how many hectares?
More than 350,000 hectares is correct.
Thank you. Can you maybe give an update on the two large communities that are evacuated, Edson and Drayton Valley, and the level of threat?
Yes, Premier. So the communities, the larger communities that were evacuated. Well, I guess we'll start in chronological order. Fox Lake actually was the first one to evacuate 3,600 people. Evacuated in John Doerr, and then High Level and Fort Vermilion is with their whereabouts in 3 different reception centers. After that, we would have the 3 communities in Yellowhead and Parkland, so Entwistle, Evansburg, and Wildwood. Approximately 1,700 folks that unfortunately evacuated. Evacuation order rescinded because we thought we had it. Evacuation order reissued. Evacuated to to Edson, only to be further evacuated west out of Edson as the fire was threatening the town. Without getting into Christie's world too much, that fire seems to be trending in the correct direction now, as far as Edson is concerned, but this could change at any moment. So they went to Hinton and Jasper, and some of them continued on further, actually, through the Esfield Parkway all the way back down to Calgary. But they're safe and sheltering thanks to the evacuation plans, but the emergency social plans and reception centers that were set up by those communities as per our plans, actually. And the last one that I'll talk about is the 7,200 people evacuated out of Drayton Valley. So that Brazeau County fire created a late evacuation at 23:09 off the top of my head 2 days ago. Every day gets melded into the other one. And these individuals overnight migrated to the reception center that was graciously offered by the city of Edmonton. Opened in the middle of the night, actually, after a late call, and are sheltering there. Last I heard, I think, I want to say, well, I want to get the numbers right, but 800 people at there, something like we're closing on 3,000 people registered, which is a good news. And a number of pets, actually, if you don't know that, we do have a program where people can bring their pets with them, and we'll provide shelter for those animals who are extended members of the family, or actually not even so extended for some. Thank you.
And do you have a follow-up question?
I do, yeah. I'm seeing reports that some community members of Woodland Cree First Nation may be stuck in between Peace River and the Red Earth area because fires are blocking both sides. I'm just curious what's being done to help people in this situation get out and get to safety.
Is that Stephen or is that Christy who will take that one?
Yeah, sorry, Premier. So as I was walking down here, there is let's call it an evolving situation where communities are not necessarily threatened, but the fires are making it challenging to navigate and have access to the highway system in the province. So we're evaluating that as we speak. The team is working on this. All I can say is that we are in constant communications with those communities. They have their emergency management plans in place, and unfortunately, until we figure out if we need to evacuate them, should it get to it, and we would find the resources to do that, they're perfectly able to shelter in place for the time being. So they're not threatened, they're kind of cut out, is the way I would depict the situation.
All right, and we have time for one more set of questions. So, operator, could you please put through the last caller?
The last question is from Francois Joly, Radio Canada. Please go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for taking my question. Maybe first question, I don't know who should take this, but we've heard from the town of Jasper that they themselves fear of losing power, among other things, and are asking to people who are evacuating west through Jasper to actually go to Banff and then to Calgary. So is there a broader plan to move those people in a community that has more resources to welcome them, essentially?
Stephen?
Yes, it's accurate reporting. Thanks, Premier. I don't know. I forget which fire, and Christy could clarify. But there's a number of fires. I think it's one in Yellowhead County that is threatening the power grid feeding Jasper town site. That's factual. Whether it's going to happen or not, I have no visibility on that. But yes, contingencies are developed, and actually we're ready to do it now. But it is a long trek. But options are somewhat limited, I guess, given where if you look at the road network there. So as people have already opted to do, they've actually exercised that option already. And our social services are setting up shop in Calgary, and we'll be ready to deliver more services to folks who choose to go to Calgary to receive the services available. Again, you have our websites, you have our phone numbers. If anybody is in trouble or doesn't know where to go, 310-4455 is where you start. And again, please register online if you haven't registered at a reception center, so we can stay connected. Thank you.
Stephen, if is there? I know that that Edmonton is providing the Expo Center for evacuees. Are you setting up a similar center in Calgary with this new information?
It's in the process of being discussed. The numbers haven't been signaled as very large, but yes, Premier, and we can catch you up on the planning on this as soon as we can.
Okay.
And do you have a follow-up question?
Oh, yeah, and for that last one, I'm wondering if Stephen can give us a bit of French on that. Just about the critical infrastructure, have you guys heard anything from either Trans Mountain or CN Rail since one or at least one of those fires is on top of the Highway 16 right now? So is there any concern that these infrastructure might be impacted or damaged?
Stephen,
Want me to go, Premier?
I've not heard anything, but have you?
Yes. So we haven't heard anything, but I'll qualify that statement. So we have embedded in the Provincial Emergency Coordination Center representatives from transport and economic corridors. So they're connected to the rail line industry, and nothing's been reported to me of that nature. We also have Alberta energy regulator folks in the PEC all the time, and same thing, no concerns or no reports of infrastructure being threatened or anything to that effect.
Thanks. And Stephen, I think Radio Canada would like those two answers en français, if possible.
Oui, merci, Madame la Première ministre. Donc, en français, nous avons je pourrais les appeler des officiers de liaison du ministère du Transport et des corridors économiques. et du régulateur de l'énergie de l'Alberta. Si je me permets la traduction, vous vérifierez qu'est-ce que le site web dit officiellement. Mais ces deux agences étant représentées dans le centre de coordination des urgences provinciales ici à Edmonton, sont en contact constant avec les partenaires de l'industrie. Donc, vous mentionnez la compagnie ferroviaire ECN. On n'a entendu absolument aucun rapport ou demande ou préoccupation en ce qui a trait à ce que vous avez mentionné plus tôt. Et la même chose pour ce qui est du secteur de l'énergie. Nous sommes en contact avec eux. Ils ont beaucoup de ressources à leur disposition pour se protéger, mais aucun rapport en ce qui a trait à avoir besoin ou des craintes quelconques qui demanderaient l'intervention gouvernementale, que ce soit provinciale ou fédérale. Merci.
All right, thanks everyone.